They stood at the press conference and said I killed a patient with reckless negligence. They said my license was revoked and I would never hold a scalpel again in my life. And that man was sitting in the hospital room watching the entire broadcast live on screen. Everyone believed them without hesitation as the cameras stayed focused only on their side. No one turned around to look at me standing silently in the last row behind everyone. They even added casually that I traded stocks during shifts, like it proved everything about me. In a single moment, every label stacked onto me without room for doubt or defense. Unprofessional, unethical, dangerous, and completely unworthy of being called a doctor anymore. But what they didn't know was that inside that operating room, I was the only one saving lives. Over 1,900 surgeries and the most dangerous cases always carried my name. Yet in every official record, my name was quietly removed again and again without explanation. Doctors I trained became attendings, standing on stages, being introduced and applauded confidently. Night shifts were mine, holidays were mine, and exhaustion became something I stopped noticing. Last winter, I worked 28 consecutive days, becoming something closer to a machine than human. A nurse once asked me why I never got promoted after all these years of work. I told her to wait a little longer, the same answer I'd repeated for 10 years. During rounds, Ryan stood at the front as family shook his hand in gratitude and relief. In the boardroom, promotion discussions moved quickly until HR reached my name and paused briefly. Then they simply said next, without explanation, and moved on like I had never existed. That was when I understood I wasn't being overlooked, I was being deliberately arranged. They allowed me to exist, but never allowed me to be recognized or remembered by anyone. Until today, when they decided to erase me completely and permanently from the system. License revoked, malpractice accusation, and a quiet note about inappropriate professional conduct added. Every exit sealed, every path blocked, leaving no space for defense or recovery whatsoever. The crowd whispered that I was finished and deserved to be removed from the profession. Not because I accepted it, but because I finally saw the truth clearly and completely. They didn't need the truth, needed someone whose name could be thrown away easily. In that moment, I had only one thought left in my mind, sharp and absolute. If they wanted a story, then I would destroy the story they carefully built around me. I left the conference hall and returned quietly to my office without saying anything. On my desk sat my badge and all the files from that so-called fatal surgery. They said the patient was dead, but I knew the truth because I saved him. Federal Medical Review Board with only one sentence written clearly and without decoration: patient stable. Investigation ongoing. I smiled because their lie had already started leaking through every crack in their system. I picked up my phone and made a call without hesitation or second thoughts. There was a brief pause before the answer came back steady and certain on the line: tomorrow. It will be broadcast live. The next day, the hearing room was filled with media, executives, and unfamiliar faces watching closely. They sat on stage like they were waiting for me to confess and accept everything quietly. I walked in, removed my mask, and someone in the audience immediately recognized who I was. Wasn't her license revoked? The room went silent for a second before noise and tension started spreading rapidly. The medical director's face changed instantly as he stared at me with visible discomfort. I looked directly at him and answered calmly without raising my voice at all. Really? The hearing began as they presented their accusations in perfect sequence like a rehearsed performance. When it was my turn, I didn't look at them, only at the cameras recording everything. Do you really want to know what happened? I opened the projection and played the first piece of evidence for everyone present. Full surgical footage, complete timeline, every critical move clearly performed by me alone. Second, post-operative monitoring showing stable vital signs without any signs of deterioration whatsoever. Third, an internal email displayed clearly for everyone to read without denial. Find someone to take the blame. The room erupted as people stood up, recorded, and began speaking over each other loudly. The medical director stood abruptly, trying to stop everything from continuing further. This is illegal. I cut him off immediately and pointed toward the entrance without hesitation or pause. Then, what about this? The door opened and every head turned toward the sudden movement in silence. The patient they claimed was dead walked in, conscious, standing, and undeniably alive. No one spoke for a moment before everything exploded into shock and disbelief instantly. Oh my God, he walked to my side and said only one sentence that ended everything completely: she saved me. Everything collapsed at once as reporters rushed forward, throwing questions without restraint or order. Did you fake this? Who approved it? Is this a cover-up? No one on their side could answer a single question with confidence or clarity anymore. Ryan stood there, his hands shaking visibly as he tried to speak under pressure. I didn't know. They told me to sign. That sentence tore everything open as the truth became visible to everyone watching live. It was never an accident, it was planned, structured, and deliberately executed from the beginning. I looked toward the silent figures sitting below. Those who had not spoken at all, you heard that too. One of them nodded and finally spoke with authority that shifted the entire atmosphere. He is a federal project subject. The air changed instantly as people reacted, stood up, and tried to process the implications. The medical director lost all color in his face as reality finally caught him. I looked at them calmly and spoke without anger, only certainty in my voice. The person you almost killed was never just an ordinary patient. Flashlights burst everywhere as control slipped completely out of their hands in seconds. That night, the story exploded across every platform, dominating headlines without exception. They said I didn't exist, yet now the entire world was watching me clearly. 3 days later, investigators entered, board members were suspended, and arrests followed quickly. The medical director was taken away, Ryan's license frozen, and the hospital placed under review. They tried to erase me, but in the end they erased themselves from everything. A week later, he was escorted out of the building as crowds gathered around him. People shouted, recorded, and condemned him while he kept his head down in silence. I stood outside and did nothing, neither approaching nor speaking to anyone around me. Someone asked me quietly if I'd won after everything that had happened. I thought for a moment before shaking my head slowly, without any sign of triumph. I looked at the door and answered in a calm and steady voice, they deleted my name. So I deleted their entire world.